welcome back to my channel. So it's been 3 weeks and I am feeling so much better, and I just wanted to just call in today and say a huge thank you to each and every one of you who either left me comments or sent me great wishes. I've had so many messages of support and friendship, and I just wanted to say huge thank you. So it's been 3 weeks that I've been away, and in that time I've had an amazingly busy time. I have been working so much and I haven't really had many days off. And I just wanted to let you know that I'd got my essay done for university as well, so that is been submitted and it's out the way, and I'm just so pleased that my free time, what little there has been, is mine again. And yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling really good. I've got my daughter home for the week at the minute, so I'm up filming in my sewing room. She's just gone out to meet a friend and she's obviously sleeping in here, so there's not a lot of room in here at the minute. I did try filming this vlog earlier outside, and the wind is so strong today that it was just blowing my hair in my mouth all the time, so that was just a disaster. So I've had to come up here and find a quiet space to be able to film and catch up with you all. So I hope you're all really well, and yeah, I hope you all haven't forgotten me and forgotten who I am, etc. I'm really excited to get back into things and get vlogging regularly again. So what else have I been up to? It's been yeah, it feels like it's been just so long. I have been sewing. I don't know how I've managed to fit it in, but I have managed to fit some sewing in. And yeah, the first thing I want to tell you was what I'm wearing now. So this is actually the named clothing Kielo dress, and I'm very late to the Kielo party. I have actually bought this pattern back in 2016, I think it was, and I never even downloaded it, even to the point that when I wanted to actually print out the when I wanted to actually make this dress up, I had to email Named and ask them to resend me it because the link had expired. I thought I'd already got it saved and printed out, but that wasn't the case at all. So anyway, yeah, so you know, I'm sure most of you know this dress. It's been a very popular dress out there in the sewing community, and this fabric is actually a viscose jersey that I got from a seller on Facebook who is called Rena, and she runs a Facebook page called Renas Fabrics Galore. I will leave a link to it down at the bottom so you can go and check her out. And yeah, I got this jersey from her. It's a viscose jersey, so it's incredibly drapey. Let me just stand back and I'll show you. Yeah, so this is the Kielo dress, and for those of you, I'm sure most of you have seen this dress before, but for those of you that haven't, it's basically a huge sort of, it reminds me of a batwing dress for some reason, that's got these ties on that allow you to just tie it any way you want. So you can tie it right round your waist like that, okay, or you can tie it the other way, and I actually quite like it this way. So you can tie it that way so that the batwing bit is at the back, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's lovely. I really like it. And yeah, what I like about named patterns is that they fit me really well because they're drafted for a taller woman. I think it's 5'8", and with me being 5'10", it just means that I don't have to make any changes to these patterns. So this actually really does come down to my ankles, so just bear that in mind. If you haven't made this, you may need to shorten it. I did think it would be a fairly quick make, and it wasn't actually. It was quite time consuming, but I do think that was because of my fabric choice. And yeah, this jersey is very drapey, and the most time consuming bit was actually doing the bands for the armholes and the neckline. That really took ages. But otherwise it was fairly straightforward. The instructions were very clear, and I actually made this up as a wearable toile. This fabric, I do love the print, but as you can see, when you start pulling at it, it becomes quite sheer. You can just see that there. And also, I washed this fabric before I cut the pattern out, and after the first wash found that it was starting to bobble straight away. And I've washed it again since I've made the dress up because I've been wearing it, and found that it's becoming, you know, when something looks quite aged, you get that sort of aged look to it. This is starting to look like that. If I come a bit closer, I don't know if you can see very well, but it looks quite sort of bobbly on it. which is a little bit disappointing, but this was very cheap, to be fair. I think it was about £3.70 a metre, something like that. So I guess I can't complain, but you know, I've had fairly inexpensive fabrics before that have been better quality than this, so I am a little bit disappointed because it's such a lovely print as well. But you know, it's fine, isn't it? So at the end of the day, it's not like I don't have lots of other fabrics to play with. So I'm just looking at how bad my hair is. If you can see, I mentioned ages ago that I was going to sort of go grey and let it grow out, and I have got awful roots going on. It's going really grey now, and yeah, if you look at my roots you can see just how grey that is. But I actually quite like the colour, and I am going to the hairdressers again next week, I think it's Tuesday, with the plan to get a lot of this blonde more grey so that it blends in better. So anyway, yeah, we'll look forward to seeing what that looks like. But yeah, I'm just embracing it now because I'm in my mid-40s, and you know, I'm sick of dyeing my hair basically. So I still think grey hair takes a fair bit of looking after. I don't think you can just leave it completely au naturel, but we'll see how it looks when I've been to the hairdressers. So yeah, so I've made this, and I have made a couple of other bits and pieces as well, but things aren't totally finished. Let me just go get the second dress that I wanted to show you. Right then, so the next dress I wanted to show you is this gorgeous little beauty here. Now this is McCall's M7745, this pattern here. I have made View D. I've done View D top, but I've added the skirt from this one, so it goes sort of like this sort of tulip hem style. And essentially what you've got is you've got a wrap dress with a lovely flounce that goes all the way round the back, and you end up with these, can you just, if I just turn that a little bit, it's really awkward when you don't have a lot of space. You've got these cold shoulder bits here on both sides, and then round the back it's falling off the mannequin, but you get the idea, don't you? Now, and then it ties at the back. Now, this fabric is a Georgette fabric that I got from the textile centre a couple of years ago, and I really, really love this fabric. To be perfectly honest, when it was in my stash, it's been in my stash ages, and I haven't made it up because, I'll be honest, it didn't sort of really strike me, but I think once made up into this dress, it just looks absolutely beautiful. Now, this dress is not finished, and I'm not going to try it on for you because it's fairly indecent at the minute. And the reason why is, there's two reasons actually. One, because I've put some weight on. I haven't had a chance to do much running the last few weeks. I have been today though, which is a bonus. So yeah, I haven't been running much, and because I've been working so much, and also I've gained a little bit of weight, and but I've still made this dress based on the size that I would have done when I hadn't have gained at least the 10 pounds that I've probably put on. Now, this dress is actually very, very involved, and if you are a beginner, I would really advise you not to attempt it. And the reason for that is there are lots and lots of different techniques in it. You do need to use a drapey fabric, because otherwise with all the flounces you just won't get the effect that you need. And working with drapey fabrics with lots of the techniques that you need to pull this off, to be honest, is really going to test you. It's really tested me. Now, where this has gone wrong is, firstly, I have this edge of the bodice that is totally bagged out. Now, the instructions in this pattern do not tell you to stay stitch these diagonal front pieces of the bodice, but I did stay stitch them, but I don't think I did them as soon as I'd cut them out, so the pieces were sort of moving about a bit. It was only when I came to construct it, which was a couple of days after I'd cut it out, that I actually stay stitched the bodice fronts. And I think that's been a bit of a problem, because this has really bagged out, and even on it just looks a bit strange because the lining is flipping out all the time. The other side is absolutely fine, so that's disappointing. I'm really pleased with how I have done a narrow hem on the flounce all the way around. I've actually just used my narrow hem foot on this and it's worked really, really well. The cold shoulder bits here, I've actually done a narrow hem on my overlocker to sort of make that look nice. And yeah, that was a really good technique to use actually. What else can I tell you? On the skirt portion, I mean, you can't really see it there. If I just move the camera down. On the skirt portion here, I've used my narrow hem foot that goes all the way around the bottom of the skirt, and that actually it's worked really well. But I've added on a couple of inches to this skirt which is what I normally have to do for the big 4 patterns anyway, and it's just a bit too long at the back, because if you look at the pattern, you can see here it does sort of dip down at the back, and at the minute it's trailing on the floor, but because it's been hemmed, obviously, you know, it's too long. Now, fair enough, I could probably wear it with high heels, but I think I do need to sort of take it off at the waist and reattach it. Right, if I just unfasten it, I can show you the inside of the dress. So what you have inside is a fully lined bodice. As you can see, it's totally lined inside, and I've just used some cotton lawn, and it's worked really well. It means that this georgette, which is polyester, is not totally against my body, and that feels quite nice. So I've just lined it in a white or an off-white cotton lawn that I had in my stash. It's got obviously the ties that are fixed in between the lining and the outer fabric. Then inside at this side there's another tie here which unfastens it totally. So if I just turn it the other way around, you'll be able to see how that lining looks inside. Can you see? So trying to get the flounce between the outer fabric and the lining so that when it's all turned out the right way, everything's nice and neat, was actually really quite awkward. Because there's so much of the flounce, it just meant that it was so easy to get bits of it caught, and that just meant that, you know, there was a fair bit of unpicking to do to get this right. Now, the other problem I've got with this, let me show you, is that the skirt pieces, because they're sort of like that tulip hem, when I'd cut them out, and even when I'd put on the notches and everything, and I was looking at the pieces and I was constructing the skirt pieces together, what I wanted to do was French seam them together. It's because I knew that you would see the inside of the skirt depending on how you walk, and I did that. And then when I'd looked at the bottom hem, it didn't look right, so I thought that I'd actually stitched the wrong 2 pieces together at the wrong side, and instead of stitching the centre back seam, I'd stitched the 2 side seams together instead, if that makes sense. And because it was already a French seam in georgette fabric, I thought there is no way I'm going to be able to get that undone. It's just going to make the fabric a mess. So I decided to cut off that French seam, which was at least 5/8 of an inch. Yeah, so not a great idea. But I was hoping that because this is a wrap dress, that there would be enough fabric that it wouldn't make a huge amount of difference, but I was very wrong. Because what happened next was I then stitched the other sides together that I thought was the back seam in a French seam, and then realised that I was right first time. So I then had to cut off that French seam and then re-sew the back seam together, which what I ended up doing was I ended up doing a really narrow seam on my overlocker instead, which is that bit there. So it was because I just thought I've taken off a good 1.5 inches now of this skirt, and that's going to make a big difference to how it fits, which it really has. So yeah, so I've ended up with a really narrow seam that I've seamed the back of the skirt on the overlocker, which is really depressing because I wanted it to look really nice inside. The side seams are French seamed, which you can just see there. So that looks nice, but what it means is that when I have this dress on, it is a little bit too small, so that the wrap at the front here, although it does wrap as far as this, for some reason this front bit here is almost up to my neckline, and I don't know why that is. All I'm thinking is it's because I've just taken off too much seam allowance and there's just not enough fabric covering each other. So I'm really quite disappointed with that, because at the minute, if I put it on and stand still and don't move, it looks fine. But obviously as soon as I move, my legs are swishing the front of the dress, the skirt anyway, right out of the way, and yeah, that's a little bit of a worry. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a skirt out of the lining fabric here, just a straight skirt that comes to sort of just above my knee, that I'm going to use as a lining underneath the outer skirt. And I think then, at least when the swooshy outer Georgette fabric skirt bit is swooshing about, it's not going to be indecent. So yeah, so this dress, I would say I absolutely love this silhouette, but it really hasn't turned out quite as planned, and a lot of that is my mistakes, but yeah, it's not an easy pattern. That's what I would say. So I'm not beaten. I am, because I want to try and rescue this dress, because this fabric, I mean, look at it, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I really want to rescue this dress because I want to be able to wear it. Now, I'm hoping obviously when I lose this little bit of weight that I've put back on, it's going to fit a bit better anyway. And I'm also hoping, you know, this, I mean, we're getting to the end of summer now in the UK, so this really isn't going to be worn much for the rest of this year, but I'm really hoping that I can tinker with this and get it finished, and hopefully next summer it will be wearable. So I'm going to put that to one side for now, but yeah, it's been a big learning curve, has this dress, and I would highly suggest that if you haven't sewn anything quite like this before and you're fairly new to sewing, I wouldn't start with this pattern, because there's so much to it, with all the fitting and the flounces and the ties and the wrap and the stay stitching and the cold shoulder and everything else. There's so much to it that I think it would just destroy your confidence. So yeah, be warned. Right, so the last one I wanted to show you is this little beauty here, and I made this. I think this was the first thing that I made after my last vlog to you guys, when I just needed that bit of therapeutic sewing with no pressure, no timelines or anything like that. And yeah, this is, I think, hang on a second, this is the pattern here. So this is Butterick B6677. So I have made this version here, which is view B. I'll put a better picture in of the dress for you. So it's this version on the back here. There's the line drawing for that. And yeah, I was drawn to this. As soon as I saw this pattern, I knew that I would really loved that style, and I am really pleased with how this has come out. Now again, this was a wearable toile for me. This fabric is a crepe fabric that I got very cheaply from Colville Fabrics, and it doesn't have any stretch in it. It has a tiny bit of, no, it doesn't even have any give, to be fair. So it is just a cheap crepe, to be fair, but it's got a really lovely print. It's coming up a bit bluer on screen, but it's more of a grey, more of a lilac-y grey colour, I would say, in real life. And essentially what you've got is just a very plain sleeveless bodice with a flounce that is simply stitched on. It's not a princess seam, and the flounce goes all the way over the shoulders around the back. You've got a keyhole neckline that has a thread chain loop and button closure just there. It's an elasticated waist with a tie belt that is well, you can fit it how you like, but I've done it asymmetric to one side. It has pockets in, but what I would say is that these pockets are an absolute waste of time. They are far too small, and yeah, I can't even get my hands in them, to be fair. I do have fairly big hands, but I can't get my hands totally in those. And then it's got a huge flounce on the bottom. I can just bring that up. You can just see a bit of that flounce there, can't you? Yeah. So it comes down all the way to my ankles. Now, as usual with most of the big four patterns, I did lengthen this pattern to fit me. So I lengthened the bodice by 1 inch, and I also lengthened the skirt by 2.5 inches as well, and it does come down to my ankles, so this is very much maxi length. What I would say is that this waistline is still too high for me. It hits me just on the sort of bottom of my ribs, rather than on my high waist. So that's a little bit disappointing. So if I make this again, and I will make it again, it's going to need to be another good inch lower than where it is. The other thing I would say is, as I say, the pockets are too small. They're far too small, because when you've got your hands in them, not that we walk around with our hands in our pockets, do we, but when you put your hands in them, your elbows sort of feel too high up because you can't get your hands deep enough in the pockets. So I would change that pocket piece out for a better pocket piece that I've got in one of my other patterns, I think. The other thing that I don't quite like about it is that the skirt is not as full as I imagined it to be. You can't really tell from the pictures on here. They actually look like it's a fairly full skirt, but in reality it is more like it looks on the back. It's more of an A-line shape, so and that's fine, but because the flounce is so flouncy at the bottom, I just don't think the fullness of the actual skirt is full enough for my liking. And I don't normally say that because I'm not a big fan of huge full skirts for me, but how this feels with a straighter skirt with a big flounce on the bottom, it feels very fishtaily when I'm wearing it, and I just think that it needs more skirt on it, so that if you're going to have a big flounce on the bottom. So that's a little bit disappointing. What I might actually do is I might end up cutting off the flounce altogether and just leaving it with the skirt as is. I think I would probably wear it more like that, but we'll see. I've worn it already and I do like it. It's really nice. I love how these flounces you know, move about when you're wearing it, because they just come over your shoulder. I will put some pictures in of me wearing it. I took some and put some on Instagram. So yeah, I do like it. The other thing you need to think about as well with this kind of pattern is that if you know, just your fabric choice really, because you do need a drapey fabric, but also remember that the underside of the fabric will show because of the way the flounce falls, and so you just need to be aware of that. I have done a very narrow hem on this again on my sewing machine, but if you haven't got that, or you're not confident getting it accurate, because it does take some practice to work a narrow hem so it looks nice and neat, then you can always do a narrow hem on your overlocker in either a contrasting thread to your garment, or you can, you know, use the one that matches as well. Yeah, so you just need to think about that as well, because obviously, again, this was a wearable 12 for me, and I don't really like the fact that the other side of this fabric is sort of white, and you can see that. It looks okay, I guess, but if I was wearing, you know, if I made this to wear to a wedding or something, I would want something that didn't show like that. So anyway, all in all, oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention as well was about the keyhole back with the thread chain and button. I'm not a big fan of rouleau loops, and the reason for that is because I just don't seem to have the skill to get them thin enough so that they actually stay closed, and it always ends up where they're too thick, so they won't go over the button properly, and they end up coming undone while I'm wearing it. So this pattern actually recommends thread chain, and a thread chain, if you don't know what one of those is that you actually make it out of thread, and it's quite a technique actually. It's not something that I can go into showing you how to do it now, but if you want to Google it and go and have a look, it's a very good technique for creating a really fine rouleau loop that is almost invisible really, and helps you hold sort of your button together. Having said all that, what I would say is that you don't actually need this, because this dress I can get on over my head with the button closure completely closed. So, you know, if you didn't want to go to all the faff of doing that, you can just sew this back bodice all the way up to the top and just slip it on anyway. So I think I would rather do that than mess about, if I'm perfectly honest. I think I have attached the belt to the side seam of this dress, and to be honest, I think for my next one I probably won't do that. The reason I did it with this one was because with the waist being a little bit high, I mean, even on my mannequin, you can see where this belt is wanting to sit on the waist of the mannequin. And you can see the waistline above it, which is really annoying. The reason I stitched this in was to try and make sure that when I'm wearing it, the belt is actually covering that seam line, which I think if I hadn't have stitched it onto the dress, then when I put this belt around my waist, it is going to fall on my natural waist like that, which is lower than where the waistline is on the dress. So yeah, I think the only other thing is that, you know, if I hadn't have done that, then I could just wear a normal belt with this dress, and I think that would probably look nice, and will probably cinch in a little bit better than just a tie belt. But, you know, as I say, it was a toile, and that's the beauty of using sort of cheaper fabrics when you've not made a pattern before, to just see how it looks and make the adjustments that you need to make. I really love the silhouette. I think it's lovely. I love this top. I think it would be nice to sort of make a peplum and make it into a top rather than a dress. I think that's actually an option, isn't it? No, it's not actually. It's not even an option on the pattern, but you could do that quite easily. I think that would be really lovely. And but yeah, when I make this up again, I'm going to have to adjust this down a good inch to fit me better. So yeah, this month has been all about flounces really, apart from my Kielo. And yeah, it's been nice to get back into sewing again without any commitment. And it's been a bit of a rocky road, I would say, over the last couple of months. There's been a lot of things on my plate, both personally and professionally, as we sometimes have in our lives. And it's been really, really heartwarming to listen to some of you guys out there who've messaged me with some of the difficulties you're facing out there in the real world as well. You know, sometimes I think in the world of YouTube we tend to think that we're alone, even though we're sort of trying to connect with people, that a lot of the time what we're going through is very, although it's very personal to us, we do feel quite isolated in that. And it's nice to hear from others about, you know, some of the challenges that you guys have been facing as well, and just the absolute love and support that you've shown me has been amazing, to be perfectly honest. And I would have been back sooner if I hadn't been at work so much. This is my third day off in the last 3 weeks, and I've been working 10-12 hour days, so that gives you an indication of how much I haven't been able to sort of connect on social media. But you know, I'm back now and I am raring to go. I'm feeling so motivated, and yeah, I've got so many ideas about what I want to do in September, and work is calming down a little bit now. I always knew August was going to be really busy, but September is looking a little bit more manageable, shall we say. So yeah, I'm really excited to be rooting through my stash and thinking about what I'm going to be making in September. So I'm hoping to film another video in a couple of days and put that up with some of my plans for September. I haven't managed to finish the Rita dress yet. It's actually underneath what I'm filming on at the minute. Yeah, it's almost done, and what's happened is when I've put the sleeves in, it's pulled it too tight across my back. So what I'm going to do is remove the sleeves and make it into a sleeveless Rita. So I am still planning to get that vlog up for you with a review of that dress when it's finished, but I need to just tweak that and get that finished. But it was one of those things that you know, when you're so excited to make something and you're almost there and realise it doesn't quite fit right, and it's really disappointing, and you just put it to one side. That's what I had to do with that dress, and focus on a couple of other different things instead, which is what I've done this month. But I am planning to pull that back out from underneath my iPad and get that finished, and hopefully that will be up later in September for you. So yeah, so it's great to be back, and I hope you're all really, really well. I can't wait to hear from you all, so please leave me some comments down below. Let me know how you're all doing, what you've been up to, what you're loving right now in the sewing community, what patterns are coming out. I'm just raring to see what everybody's up to. So yeah, lots and lots of love to you all, and thank you again for bearing with me. It's great to be back, and I'll speak to you all again really soon. Take care, guys. Bye.